and welcome to the Digitally Native podcast vlog. We are starting a vlog series where we will be looking at digital innovation and issues to do with digital and social media and testing out different things that we find in the market. And so for our first episode, we are looking at Lemon8. Now, if you follow us on social media, you may have seen us record a little bit of information about that, especially towards the end of April when we were talking about how, well, there was a lot of news around how it was getting so much uptake in the US market, had one of the highest downloads for an app for a long time in the market. And so we are looking at how Lemon8 works and going through some of its features. It's a very interesting app. It's framed as a mix between Instagram and Pinterest. And that's because it combines the audiovisual elements of Instagram and some of the more static elements of Pinterest. In line with a lot of social media apps at the moment, it's one of those that you don't really need to have friends on. You kind of go to your interests and find other people who are interested in the same sort of things, and that's how you build your community. So the way it really works is you just kind of go into the app and then you start... when you register, you have to kind of give the app some ideas of your own interests. And then, you start posting across those different interests. You then find people either through looking for hashtags or just looking through the For You page, which you find at the homepage. And that just shows you the different things that you have shown interest in. So it could be health, beauty, fashion, whatever it is. And then you would go into each of those tabs and then you find content. Content can be static images or it can be audiovisual. And then you can like those posts, you can comment, you can engage. And then, similarly, people find you that way. You follow people that you're interested in and they follow you back if they're also equally interested. So I'm just going to show you how I went about posting something. I have a few posts there. You may be able to see that there are some views on those posts. There may be a like or two on some of those posts as well. And so what I do is I just go into the app. So I've got this photograph of some flowers I took earlier today. And what I do is I then go in and then I share that, but then I change the filter to make the color just a little bit clearer. And then I can add text overlays. So I'm just going to put something like classic here, just to give it a kind of classic look itself. And then I'm just going to go into sharing. But then before I share, I'm just going to add a caption to that. And then I post it. And there you have a post. That's exactly how it works. It's very intuitive, very much like Instagram in that way. And then, you just kind of, you can hashtag it if you want to, or you can write a long caption on it. But, I'm just showing you how it works for now. And then you can just have a look for yourself. So that's a little bit of a look at how Lemon8 works, but then I'd like to have a little bit more of a conversation about some of the different things around Lemon8. So Lemon8 is a product of ByteDance, the company that owns TikTok. Now, if you've been following anything to do with digital and social media at the moment, you will know that TikTok is facing a lot of challenges, particularly in the Western world, where there is potential bans of the application because of fears that it is being used for surveillance by the Chinese government because it is a Chinese-owned application. And so ByteDance has come up with this new product, which is intended to, it sounds like from commentators, fill that gap in case TikTok is indeed banned or if there are restrictions on the application in certain countries. Its rollout is also consistent with this idea or this potential threat that TikTok faces. I think the focus currently has been on countries in Australia is one of them, the UK is another one, the US, so those kinds of Western countries, but also markets in Southeast Asia There's been Malaysia, Indonesia, Singapore, as well as Japan. So different countries are priority countries for this application rollout. It's also come out that the rollout has targeted influencers specifically, particularly influencers in the TikTok space, because again, I think the thinking is, in case TikTok is then banned, you still want these influencers to have a space where they can engage and share their content. Now, this is an interesting application for different reasons. It's, TikTok has largely been so popular and famous because it is focusing on audiovisual content. However, with this application, we see this kind of mix with just static images again and some audiovisual content. So it's kind of going back to the old way of doing social media, where things weren't always audiovisual and there was content that was static. And so it's quite interesting because everyone has their own opinions about where the future of social media is going to take us. And some people think that audiovisual content is the way to go, but we're kind of going back to more mixed media in this way. Another really interesting thing about Lemon8 that has come out is around the captions, the length of captions that one can put to a post. I haven't learned yet what the word limit is or the character limit is, but people tend to use quite long captions, which bring in some of that element of storytelling that, Facebook and these other applications that, started the social media revolution were known for. And so it's almost like, yes, we are in this era where social media applications have become more personalized, more tailored. Like I showed with the For You page on Lemon8, we have a similar format on TikTok, where you don't necessarily have to engage with anyone. You can just kind of go and find what you're interested in and just have an existence without a community. However, when we go back into having longer captions, it's almost like one is trying to reach out and tell a story and engage and create community. So again, this is kind of playing with this idea that social media is going to become less and less social, because here's an application that is actually leveraging that again. This other thing that's quite interesting, obviously, is it almost feels like this application is coming in to fill a gap or to fill in the death of other applications that already do that, like your Pinterest. But Pinterest is a very interesting app. I mean, it's been in existence for a very long time now, and it does well. I think last year its annual revenue was put at $2 billion US. It's got a strong enough following, particularly of a millennial generation, people who just pin or create boards and pins for different things that have a home and lifestyle aesthetic. And so it is also starting to introduce its own features, such as video pins and overlays and, different ways to make content more attractive. So it's not that Pinterest is dead in itself. It's very much alive. And it also services this very kind of niche interest or area. And so it's quite interesting. I think it'll be quite interesting to see if this application is going to be able to pull people who are loyal to Pinterest in that way, on people as well who are loyal to Instagram in a very different way, and bring them together. Or if it's just targeting itself to Gen Z and to say, there's enough of a market of people within Gen Z who are not on Pinterest and who are not on Instagram, who may also not generally be interested in being on TikTok because TikTok is a little bit more out there, and who would want to join Lemon8 as a quieter application to just kind of pin the things that they're interested in or profile the things that they're interested in. So obviously, because the thrust of the podcast is to look at tech and digital and social media from an African perspective, my interest was to find out what the uptake or interest or engagement has been with Lemon8. And I haven't found a lot of content online that speaks to its uptake. I have found a few users who are in South Africa who are making use of the application and trying to find ways to tell their stories or to share their interests in the space. However, it feels like there is a kind of silence or lack of engagement with the app. And that would be obviously because, it hasn't been targeted to the African audience or African market in the same way that it's being very much targeted to these Western countries. I think another interesting thing to note about the application is that it is only available at the moment in the Apple iStore. And that obviously cuts off a big section of the market. A lot of users on the African continent are Android users. And so one can't find this application in the Google Play Store and download it and engage with it. It kind of mirrors some of the conversations we've had on the podcast. I think Clubhouse is one of those applications that it got a reputation because it wasn't initially available on Android. It was very much an Apple exclusive application. And I've talked a little bit about that, about the statistics and about the reach of Android applications and phones on the African continent. So that's something to think about. We will see what happens with this application, if it will be rolled out more widely, if it will be targeting, for instance, African influencers in the TikTok space as well. I'm not sure, because right now the conversation about TikTok bans, it has not really included Africa and, the African continent. And that has a lot to do with the geopolitics of, China and Africa. But should it become something that also starts to have an impact on TikTok's influence on the African continent, it will be interesting to see how Lemon8 may also be leveraged towards African influencers and the African market. But we'll see how that goes. For now, it seems to be a very US and Western centric conversation, but it's always good for us to get involved in those conversations, because everything that sort of happens in the social media space has impacts and influences on us too. I really hope that you've enjoyed learning a little bit more about Lemon8, and that you will be part of our vlog series as we continue. As always, if you have anything to contribute or any ideas about topics, ideas, or any just feedback that you'd like to offer, you can find us on social media, on Twitter at Native Podcast. Send us a shout out or a question there, or else you can find us on Facebook. Our page is the Digitally Native Podcast with Fungai Machirori. Alternatively, you can send us an email. The email address is info@digitalynativepodcast.com. You can also check us out on our website at www.digitalynativepodcast.com. So there's many ways you can find us, and there's many ways you can engage with us, and we very much look forward to it. Until the next vlog series or the podcast, do take care and have a great rest of your week.